Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this session. It's been a very busy few days, and I'm sure you've all been running around to have a chance to hear some of these amazing presentations that ITB has been doing. And don't forget, we have today, of course, Responsible Tourism Day, and there'll be many more that will be happening. Some of you may have been at the other day, the World Legacy Award ceremony. Today we're going to be joined by 4 of our finalists. One of them, unfortunately, had to leave on short notice yesterday, so we'll have 4 of the winners here to join us today for what I believe will be an enlightening and interesting conversation that goes into the issues around, how do we make this work? What are the challenges, and where are we in this thing we call the global sustainable tourism transformation? You will have heard me, if you were at the World Award ceremony, talk about what the stakes are, really, for people on the planet. This is more than a rhetorical discussion. It's more than just an interesting topic. Some people who know me, they know I'm a bit passionate about this, so maybe a bit too passionate about it at times. But when I think of just a couple of statistics, this is where the sense of passion and concern comes from. One, in 1950, there were 25 million international tourists, what they call international tourist arrivals in the language of this business. Fast forward to 2015, over 1.2 billion. Move it up a notch to within 10 years, and we will double to approximately 2 billion. So if you think about it, 25 million in 1950, and then 2015, we have over 1 billion. In a span of basically 65 years, we've seen a dramatic increase that is likely to double. And then we combine that with where travelers are going, more places to see, more ways to get there. There's really no corners of our planet left that travelers can't access. And this thing called global tourism is seeking them out for all the promises and all the challenges that means, the opportunity to deliver the promises and benefits of tourism. But these same areas where tourism is growing are also some of the most fragile places on our planet. And they're also the make or break world for millions of people struggling for basic needs, education, medicine, clean water, all of just basic survival skills. So when I look at that picture, to me, a resounding message comes up, and that is that tourism ultimately will play a critical role in the future of this planet in a big and dramatic way, from conservation of endangered species to the livelihoods and well-being of local people, with one very important qualification. Can we get it right? Will we get it right? The stakes are high. And the winners on the stage here today are among a group globally, and there really are many out there, some we don't even know of, that are leading that journey forward. And on behalf of National Geographic, where our own mission is inspiring people to care about the planet, that's why we have also adopted this issue to address as fundamental to the future of Earth. So with that quick introduction, I also want to mention to you that we have in the audience, I believe all 10 of our finalists from the other day, incredible companies. And we also have some of our judges. So in the course of this, we'll move quickly through some discussion. I would like to turn to the audience. So if you have questions, don't hesitate. Please keep them in mind. We'll have them for the panel here, and we may also have for our finalists in the audience. But first, I have 2 questions I'm just going to ask right up front together, if the technicians will allow me. It's one of those funny things where I want your opinion. It may seem redundant or obvious, but let's just take a moment and think about it. The first question is, do you think most travelers today care about sustainable tourism practices? Or, put another way, just care about how they travel and its impact? Would you say many do? Would you say most of them do? Would you say some or maybe a few of them do? And you should have little gadgets. I'd love to see your thoughts on that. Is it many? Is it most? Is it just a few? Well, few do. I guess to me that's significant. I don't know if our panelists can easily see that, but obviously few care, many care, and it seems we're still pretty low on the most care. I'm going to take this from a different direction because I could ask you a question: how important do you think it is for businesses to be socially, environmentally responsible? I think we can conclude, generally speaking, we think it's important. But I'm going to ask you a different question this time. Question number 3 on my list. I'm going to skip number 2 in the interest of time. Do you think that travel publications and media need to do more stories to increase awareness and support on how to travel more sustainably? How important should the travel media be in this question, our obligation? Is it very important for the media? Is it somewhat important? Or is it not really important? You know, we're interested in travel stories, whether or not it's a subject. We want to see these great travel stories. Let us know your thoughts. Okay, I think that was pretty clear. So all of you can see it. On that note, I'm going to move myself right over here to the stage, and we're going to start a discussion. The reason I ask those questions is because also there's a debate in the media as about, how much should we be involved in these issues? So, it's interesting to see your voices here. Of course, we don't know if you're travelers or business owners, and that may not make any difference whatsoever. Okay, I have a tremendous pleasure to introduce to you, beginning on my left, the winner of our Conserving the Natural World Award, Martha Isabel Ruiz Corzo de Pedraza. I had to read that, by the way. She is the director of Grupo Ecológico Sierra Gorda, Mexico. And as part of the introduction, I'd like to ask to show the video on Sierra Gorda for those of you who weren't at the award ceremony, so you have a context of why they won and who they are.
Natural world.
And I'd like to move right along to our next introduction, which is our Sense of Place Award. And Neil Spereth, I hope I pronounced it right, Neil, if I didn't, correct me, who's founder and co-director and founder of Time Unlimited Tours from New Zealand. And for his introduction, let's tell you who they are.
The Sense of Place Award honors Time Unlimited Tours for successfully working with the Maori people to showcase their cultural heritage. Time's co-founder is a descendant of the 2 Maori chiefs who signed the 1840 treaty that became New Zealand's founding document. Time shares Maori living culture by crafting personalized journeys through New Zealand based upon Turunga Wewe, or sense of place, in the ancestral Maori language, an approach that embraces care for local people and for nature. Congratulations to Time Unlimited Tours, the 2016 World Legacy Awards winner for Sense of Place.
And the next introduction goes to our Engaging Communities category winner, and Amy Alderman, who heads up operations at the Bush Camp Company. Let's find out about them.
The Engaging Communities Award honors the Bush Camp Company for their leadership in helping to establish the Luangwa Conservation and Community Fund. Bush Camps believes that protecting the environment means involving the local community. They fund over $300,000 annually to community projects, including sponsorship of 380 students up to university level, distribution of 3,000 anti-malaria nets yearly to local villages, daily meals to more than 1,500 school children, and on-the-job training. Bush Camps also donated a light aircraft to the South Luangwa Conservation Society to support anti-poaching patrols. Congratulations to the Bush Camp Company, the 2016 World Legacy Awards winner for engaging communities.
And our last award category on the stage with us right now, which is Destination Leadership. And Carol Gleason is the manager of Burren and Cliffs of Moher Geopark in Ireland, which was our winner this year. Let's find out why.
The Destination Leadership Award honors Burren and Cliffs of Moher Geopark for successfully bringing together villagers, government officials, and private sector leaders to safeguard local livelihoods and protect one of Ireland's most beautiful landscapes. Working with grassroots organizations, including the Burren Ecotourism Network, they established a training and mentoring program for local companies to benchmark green operations and high-quality services. The result is more travelers supporting community businesses to sustain their rural way of life. Their Geo Park Life Sustainable Destination Strategy demonstrates the power of well-planned and managed tourism to help protect Ireland's cultural and natural heritage. Congratulations to the Burren and Cliffs of Moher Geopark, the 2016 World Legacy Awards winner for Destination Leadership.
All right, thank you, and and congratulations to all of you again. So, we had a couple minutes to just sort out some technical stuff with the sound system. So I apologize for our brief delay in starting. We have a very tight session, so I'm going to jump right into these questions and at least try to get a few from the audience as well. My first question, Neil, is going to be to you, of Time Unlimited. We saw on there, your wife who co-founded the company with you. She's a descendant of a very, famous chiefs who signed the founding document of the country of New Zealand. So my question is this. In the world of travel, we see a lot of emphasis on, at least in sustainability circles, the importance of, protecting or preserving indigenous culture. Sometimes almost as if indigenous culture were something we want to preserve, both for them, as it's like stuck in time, interesting since your name is Time, and then the other is almost like, so we can appreciate this culture. Yet you kind of twisted this around, and you said, no, indigenous heritage is actually a living culture, and what we need to protect is the living culture of that indigenous heritage. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why?
Kia ora koutou first, which means hello to everybody. Moin moin. Kate mina fólkja. So you have in 3 little sentences my heritage. I grew up in Hamburg, Deutschland, of an Irish mom and a German dad. Went to Ireland at the age of 12, so the Burren's an incredibly awesome place too, which I know well. And emigrated to New Zealand 12 years ago. 11 years ago, I met my beautiful Maori wife, Kelly Te Whare Tene Te Hema. Quite a handful in terms of her name. But we decided 2 months and 16 days after we met, before we got engaged, before we got married, before we had our gorgeous daughter, that we wanted to start this business, which is based on the concept of integrating Maori experiences where applicable. So that's where our name comes from, to Time Unlimited Tours. Time in Time Unlimited stands for to integrate Maori experiences. And as Costas said, our focus is on making sure that we integrate Maori experiences and culture where people are interested. Not all our tours are Maori tours. All our guides are well-versed in Maori tikanga or customs. Not all our guides are Maori, but they all have a deep love of our indigenous people. And the most important thing is what we normally, and that was really the basis of our application and what we do as a company, who we are as people. We don't want to, when we travel, we don't want to, when people come to New Zealand, show people what Maori people used to be like. And it reminds me of a place in Auckland called Maunga Kiekie, or One Tree Hill, very famous place in Auckland, or Tamaki Makaurau. There's a statue on top that commemorates Maori people, because the founding father of Auckland actually believed that the Maori people would be dying off within a few decades. So he believed that sometime in the 20th century there would be no Maori people left. On the contrary, there are 16% of New Zealand's population are Maori. And so they're a living culture, and that's the whole thing we're about. It's about living culture, it's about the future. We're not looking back 500 years. Maori people used to be like this. Maori people used to do that. We incorporate what Maori people used to do, what they are doing presently, and what we are looking at towards the future. And the future is very bright. So we're now about 16% of the population, and we're currently, and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm playing my part in that, by having a part Maori daughter. We're currently seeing a major shift, and we're calling it the browning of New Zealand. So there's an Asian influx. Maori people are linked back to Taiwan 5,000 years ago via the Philippines, and then moved all across the Pacific to Polynesia. And so it's all about, so 12% of the population Maori, 16% of the population, 12% Asian, 16% Maori, and there's a lot of Pacific Islanders. So by the year 2030, it is estimated that demographically there will be more than 50% people of these origins in New Zealand. So our population is shifting essentially through love. They're having more babies. So we're looking towards a really positive future, and it's a partnership based on this founding document of New Zealand, 6th of February 1840, the Treaty of Waitangi, that gives Maori a very unique place in the world in terms of they have a contract with the people that came, the white man or Pākehā that came, which gives them certain rights and privileges, and that is unique in the entire world. It's a very important document for Maori and for New Zealand as a whole, and I really believe that is something we as a nation can be proud of. We have amazing fjords. If I'll just take 1 minute to...
Yes, because I want to ask you a follow-up question, just so quickly. Go ahead.
Okay, we have amazing fjords, so does Norway. We have amazing mountains, so does Switzerland. We have amazing beaches, so does Tahiti. But what makes New Zealand completely unique in the world is our indigenous people, and we should never forget that.
So with that in mind, there's a lot of debate around tourism and indigenous cultures. Issues over exploitation, issues over some of what I just mentioned to you. Are they there just to perform, et cetera, et cetera? What do you think the role of tourism and the tourism in the sense of its industry and indigenous peoples should be? What do you think that relationship should look like?
It should be one of equality. It should be one of people being on an equal footing. So meeting people at eye level. It's not about the tourist coming along, whether he's a wealthy or a backpacker or whatever section of the market they're at. They should meet our people, whether we're New Zealanders or we always say blown-in New Zealanders like myself, at eye level. There's no them and us. There's an integration, like we say in our company name, of Maori Experiences as part of what we offer for people so that they come away from New Zealand with a sense that you have become one of us. That is what we want to achieve, and I think that's what New Zealand is very good at generally. Not perfect, but we're working on that.
Well, I may come back to you in a little bit on that, because it's a big issue, and you know there is now an Indigenous Tourism Association globally that's trying to address some of these issues. But I'm going to turn my attention right now to Amy at Bush Camps, because, you know, Amy, Bush Camps is doing some pretty amazing stuff. And if you don't mind my asking, and I do, obviously, I feel passionate about sustainable tourism, you know that. But when I see the statistics around the company, this is a company that's pumping $300,000 a year into community initiatives. Where's that money coming from? I mean, like, because, you know, to me, most businesses are about their bottom line. And that's a chunk of change, and then you have, you know, you're doing bed nets, you have feeding programs, you've contributed an aircraft, et cetera. Do you have any money left over in your business? You know, how can you as a company afford that? I think it's incredible. But from a business model, how do you justify it?
I work for free. I'm just kidding. No, thank you. And it is interesting. I think the answer to that would be we can't afford not to do it. Couple of things. One of the things, we began in 2009, Andy Hogg, our managing director, who's born and raised in Zambia, and I think that's critical. He gets it. He was educated in South Africa, came back to Zambia pretty much immediately after graduating, and has been there ever since. So he understands it. And in 2009, Andy created the Luangwa Conservation and Community Fund. And what that is, it's part of the rate that's built into to guests staying with us. So every guest, and most guests don't even realize they're paying it. Although we don't hide it, but you don't think about it. And so it's added onto the rate, and half of the money that's collected under that goes to the conservation project. So that's where that helped contribute to the plane that we bought for South Luangwa Conservation Society. The other half goes to our community projects, to the school feeding program, the education sponsorship and construction projects that we've done at the schools, and the access to clean water. We have, I forget what year it was, a few years ago we created a Zambian registered charity called Charity Begins at Home. So we do some external fundraising. We have an anonymous donor that does some fundraising matching for us. And so through all that, we've been able, we also have a lot of very generous guests who, once they come and stay with us and we take them out to see what we're doing in the projects, they are often always, I mean, a lot of people are interested in donating afterwards. So we do kind of a lot of different, we don't do any specific fundraising. We don't have charity raffles or any of that. But we do kind of a lot of, well, the projects, I think, speak for themselves.
So is it, just noble philanthropy in the sense that we should all wake up in the morning and think of what we could do for people in need? What's the return on that investment? I'm playing a little bit of the devil's advocate here, as we say in the United States. What's the return on that investment? How do you see the benefit of what you're doing? What would be some examples?
You mean as a guest?
No, I'm referring to meaning with the communities, the things you're doing in these communities, the school, the feeding, the plane. Well, the plane is more conservation, but what do you get out of that at Bush Camp? Is it, certainly an honor like this, winning an award is a great thing, but I think there's got to be more than that.
I see. There's a picture, and I'm sure it was somewhere. There's a picture that Andy, our boss, always uses as an example of the benefit to us of doing it. And it's some kids who were cute little school kids, so everybody wanted to take their picture. They happened to be sitting in front of a wall that had a drawing of a leopard on the back of it. And Andy uses that as the perfect example of, if we look after those kids, they'll look after the wildlife. People come to stay with us because of the amazing wildlife that South Luangwa National Park has to offer. If we don't have leopards, we don't have lions, we don't have wild dogs, elephants, all that, people aren't going to come. We're not going to have those if the community doesn't support us. So it really is a win-win situation. It was interesting, I'll just tell a little anecdote. When Samson came to judge us for this, when we were a finalist for the award.
Let me give a quick snapshot there. Samson is an Indigenous Maasai community leader who's been engaged with tourism for 3 decades, all the challenges. He was the judge who was sent on site to evaluate their community projects in Zambia.
He asked if he could have one of our guides take him into the village. And he went into a little bar. Might have been, there's one called the Obama Pub, which I love. But he went into one of the local bars, and I'm sure he was drinking Coke, but, and just sat and asked people about the Bush Camp Company. People who didn't know who he was, didn't know why he was there. We didn't know who he was talking to. And he said it was the most enlightening thing to hear all the positive things about our company that community people who haven't come and stayed with us, don't work for us, just know about what we've done in the community. And I think that spoke volumes about
Thank you for that. Thank you. I'm going to turn now, Martha Isabel, if you don't mind, because you've actually taken a very interesting approach to conservation. We understand from Amy that, when you get the local people involved, that's where you can see conservation really take place. But you took it a step further.
Yeah, self-sufficiency. And during those 7 years I lived retired, I just found the cause of my life. I always have been very passionate, but I didn't have a path. And living in nature, I can find so much beautiness, wisdom, and that tapestry really inspired my husband and me to begin protecting the region. Because it was like if the blanket was pulled for everyone to a different side, and hunting, opening of roads, garbage everywhere. And my biosphere reserve has 638 communities, 100,000 inhabitants in a million acres territory. And they own the land. It means that I do conservation in their private land. Then, since the beginning, we know very clear that we have to deal with thousands of people and to generate economic and better life opportunities for our partners. And that's why we began trying to develop a sustainability culture. What we do in Sierra Gorda are hundreds of actions. Yeah, we do everything you could think to release pressure to the planet. We deal with an environmental education program with 17,000 kids every month in 170 schools. We have planted 6 million trees. We purchase land for conservation. We do soil regeneration. We have vegetable gardens everywhere. We give healthy food lessons to the local ladies. And we got the decree of our territory as a biosphere reserve in the 97. And I was appointed at that time by President Cedillo and said, in this protected area, we are not going to send somebody from outside to be the director. You, local lady, will be the director. Then I had my hot potato and go and tell the governor that he has to ask for permission and that you may say, no, Mr. Governor, you may not build your dam, you may not do your highway, you may not put a high electricity power line. I have fought with the ugliest. I have a doctorate in Roman Coliseum.
You do.
I am a professional fighter. Yeah, and defending the territory. That's my issue. No?
But you chose your warriors primarily to be women. You felt that the voice of women in the communities was going to be the strongest way to advance this agenda. What made you think that?
I think that to work for the planet, it's a gender cause. For me, it's Mother Earth. Yeah? And I'm very proud that from every kitchen, the mamas are doing environmental education. And I'm very happy too. We have 80 It's 80 micro enterprises, tourism micro enterprises. And most of them are managed by women. We can do miracles with nothing. Women. Yeah? We can join what is broken. Yeah, we can be very patient. Yeah, I have projects that I have 25 years working with an ecolodge, and I'm not going to finish with them. They need us. We are a bridge, yeah, among their capacities and the global opportunities. And those are gifts of women. Yeah?
Thank you.
Waves of love.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Absolutely. I can't help, but it reminds me of something I've heard in my own family. I come from a Greek background. Men are the head of the household. Some of you may have heard this. It was actually appeared in a film at one point. But my mother always said, yeah, men are the head of the household, but the women are the necks. And we turn the head in the direction we want. So anyway, all right. Moving right along here, Carol. Destinations. I mean, it's one thing to work with a community, or many. It's one thing to work with a particular business. But you're straddling the fence at the destination level of municipal authorities who have their own interests that sometimes always are not necessarily the interests of the people on the ground. Hopefully they are. Of course, a diverse local communities. You watched for years. You come from a small farm on the west coast of Ireland. You saw small villages with rural-urban migration taking place and the collapse of traditional villages, sometimes down to just a few people left, very, very small. And you also saw the departure of businesses moving into capital cities and leaving these areas. So my point and my question is this. You walk into that situation 7 or 8 years ago now, I think, if I remember correctly, and yet you felt that you needed to bring all of them around the table and ensure that the benefits of tourism were going into these villages to keep them alive, keep them thriving. How do you corral cats, as they say? How do you get all these folks with very different interests? A municipality that just wants investment business, I would say, because most municipalities want that. Local people who may feel burned by the municipality, may compete with each other, who knows? And trying to get businesses to partner at the grassroots level. How do you bring it together?
You find, I guess, the common denominator. What do all of these various, organizations, individuals, communities, farm holders, again, the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand about Ireland, and particularly the west of Ireland, is that it's a range of small farms. It's not publicly owned. I think sometimes people travel into the west and they think, oh gosh, this is one great big national park. It's not. I mean, it's small families, individuals that are living here, and it's their place, it's their land, it's their property. So it's very difficult to actually have a strategy in which you can implement something like you can in a national park. So you have to get very much collaboration and cooperation and belief in it. So I think the common denominator really, it goes back to the 3 pillars of sustainability. It is, it's home, so it's social. This is my home. We all want to protect our homes. It's economic. It's the economy, stupid. We want to make a living. We want to stay here. We want to make a living, and we want our children to stay here. We want to keep our families whole. And then it's the environment. And that environment is not just landscape, and it's not just the beautiful views, but it's also the cultural environment as well.
So with that in mind, you had another unique situation in your area. You have not only one of Ireland's most iconic sites, the Cliffs of Moher. I hope I pronounced those right, I don't know. But also iconic on the world stage. And as a result of that, you're about 2 hours from the city of Dublin, and every day, buses are coming and going, coach tours, they're coming in, they're snapping pictures of these spectacular cliffs, going back in their buses and heading on their way, and yet all of those farms and those people, and it's my home, live there. This was their Cliffs of Moher for generations, and now somebody was making a lot of money, but it wasn't necessarily them. How do you turn that ship around?
It's going to take time. Yeah, it takes a lot of time.
How do you turn around that photo stop tour?
Yeah. Well, what we've been doing over the last number of years, and Christy's here in the audience with me, and he would be one of the businesses that we work with, is to get to provide choice. I mean, we can't put a wall around the Cliffs of Moher or around the burn and say, okay, you need a visa to come in here. You have to be a sustainable traveler. You have to be this, whatever. You don't. You can't do that. But what you can do is provide choice, and that there are other options, that there are, the visitor who comes for maybe an hour and takes that photograph, if they can get a taste, a hint as they're passing through, ooh, this could be a place that we really could come back to and spend more time in, and to have those options there readily available for them, and marketed in a particular way, that it's there, that they've got choice. So that's what we've been building for the last number of years, for the last 8 years, this alternative to seeing the Cliffs of Moher, to exploring the burn. So we have like a food trail. And I see you have something similar too, in your place as well, so that they know that they will get excellent local food. And on the food trail, we have the producers as well as the restaurateurs. All of the pubs in the locality, provide excellent local food. We have an activity trail where we say explore more with a guide. You know, if you take on one of our guides, you're going to see the place more. You're going to hear the stories. You're going to know about our place and get more of a sense of place, from the local guides. So it's that's our approach. It's not about trying to, in a sense, fix that situation that you just described. It's by providing an alternative. But what we're also working on is that, the people, that there is a return from the Cliffs of Moher back into the community again. Now, the director of the Cliffs of Moher is an amazing person. She's very heavily involved in the ecotourism network of businesses. She's incredibly supportive. She's also turned the operations of the cliffs around, so it's as sustainable as it can be. But we're also really looking at how we can actually make those numbers work for us. Is there some way we can get some reinvestment happening from all of the day trippers back into the sustainability of the burn and coming back directly to help us create more options and create more economic development,
Well, I think it comes back to this issue of, your travel choice makes a difference. So giving people a choice, and maybe it comes back to what we said about the role of media, or just in general, educating travelers to make the right choices. We have in the audience some finalists, and while I mention one other thing about Carol's destination, I'm gonna ask a question to the group from Røros, Norway, who is also a finalist in this category of destination. If somebody can get them a mic, while I'm mentioning, just a little side note. Something very unique, well, maybe not unique, but special in Ireland. For any of you out there single and you're still, you know where I'm going, and and you're still looking for that special mate, every September, one of the villages in her communities holds a more than century-year-old matchmaking festival with dedicated matchmakers, whose most famous one, I don't know if he's 90 now or 80, who says, this is an official matchmaker who says, something along the lines of, don't worry, even if you're an old shoe, there's a foot that fits you. So, and by the way, the LGBT section of the matchmaking ceremony takes place also in September. So that's just a little plug for anybody who's feeling lonesome and wants to find their mate. Anyway, coming to Røros, one of the we have 10 finalists and we don't have the time to go to all of them. But the group from Destination Røros in Norway, who've also been working with many of these same issues, I'd like to just hear your comment on one thing in particular. Again, this question of how do you pull all these diverse players together? Carol said, well, you find the common denominator, you find the common thing that can reach them. What about you? What was perhaps a challenge, or what are your thoughts on this?
What we did in Røros was that we made a training course for hospitality and a knowledge course. So to learn about the knowledge of the area, the knowledge of the local food of the area, and the history of the UNESCO history of the area, and knowledge about each other to make them better sellers. So we have trained 500 people, and also I'm from a tiny little town, a small area of Norway in 5 municipalities, and we trained 500 of those people because we are visited by 1 million people each year, and some of them just go to Røros, park their car, check on old houses for 2 hours and drive on. And then you won't have any income of that. So therefore, we trained those 500 people so they would always meet someone in a shop or at a gas station or whatever. And then they could tell them about Røros and the area. And what happened, everybody became so proud about the area, and they managed to stop the tourists. So we had a large increase of people staying overnight, or 2 nights, or 3 nights in the area. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
One of the unique things that you accomplished there, among many, that really is incredible, is you also revived a winter festival, a winter market, I believe, and with people coming from all sorts of faraway surrounding communities to converge. And this was a market that I think once happened historically, and you've helped give birth to again.
Yeah, that's true. That market is 160 years old, and it was decided of the King's resolution in Norway. And they came to that market with horses, and it was down to like 10,000 visitors like 20 years ago. And then the tourism industry started to work with bringing the old tradition up again. And nowadays, it's 80,000 people coming to the market in the fantastic winter wonderland. They're coming there by horses, some of them, and it's just incredible. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, she said, do they have matchmaking? That's all I want to know. And, we're just in a few minutes here, and I promised them that I would try my very best to stay on time. So I'm going to give each of you an ending comment for you to make. And just think about it that you would like this audience to take away from the message of your work and the bigger issue that we're grappling with, which is how to improve people's lives, how to harness the power of tourism to truly make a difference. So if you have a thought on that, may I ask you, Martha, on my side to begin? What message would you like this group to take away from Sierra Gorda?
That in Sierra Gorda, we want to do things right. Then I don't want massive tourism. Yeah? I may wonder, any area has so much beautiness that in the future it may be a threat. Yeah? Then I want for my area people that could be astonished by the beautiness with no footprint and a profound respect for the local communities. I don't know how we are going to control it, but I think that if we set up the right rules since the beginning, yeah, we are protecting the area. Second, I think that to open and to give value to the beautiness, it has to be in the benefit of the local communities. Yeah? In my region, I have been very careful. I don't like outside investors to come to my region. Even if it takes me 30 years, 40 years, I'm going to be there with patience, building the local capacities, strengthening their communities, rehabilitating their facilities, yeah? Because for us, it's real that it's a big opportunity for the local people developing new skills, new services, new economic value for the forest services, and we believe that we are building an economy of conservation, yeah, based in the nature services, carbon compensations, carbon capture in soils, in forest, and the economic value that may get directly to the communities developing tourism. I really recommend to be very careful because we are dealing with beautiness and it doesn't belong to us. Yeah, it's something that we have to keep in mind, that we are opening sanctuaries. And if we are not awareness enough, we will be judged in future.
Thank you. It's interesting because it reminds me the origins of the word economy goes back to eco. So building a conservation economy, I think, is a powerful message. We have to be brief. Neil, what would you like them to take away?
I'd like everyone to take away that ecotourism is not a fad. ecotourism is not something that's cool at the moment, that's going to go away. It needs to come from within. And I'd like to think that all of the finalists and everyone else, I guess, that applied, but I have been unbelievably inspired by sitting beside you, being on the same stage as you guys and everybody else who's been here, the 15 finalists. And I would like to think that all of us do it from within. We are still at a point in development of ecotourism where it's probably by some of our competitors seen as an expense. That, they have a competitive advantage over us because they have less expenses than us. But for us, it's the right thing to do. And that it has to be irrelevant what the costs are, as long as businesses like ours, regions like ours, can survive on this, what we want to achieve. We want to leave the places we live and work in literally better than they were before. And there's one thing I want to say to you.
Very quick.
Be quick. So one thing I want to say, we have a policy that we take out more than we bring in. Now that sounds hypocritical, but if for the several thousand people we host every year, if our guides pick up at least one piece of rubbish that somebody else has left behind, we leave our place much better than it was before. That's one of many examples. Kia ora.
Thank you.
All right.
Go ahead.
Very quickly, I agree completely with what Neil said. I think for us, the lessons have been that you've got to listen to the people in the community. If you try and come from the outside and be outside top down, it doesn't work. Going right along with that, flexibility. We have amended some of we used to focus on primary and secondary education, then now we're moving into tertiary. So listening to what the people in the community need, where they want the boreholes, things like that, and then being flexible and not having preconceived notions about what people need and what they want, because you need to hear what they need and want. Thank you.
And Carol, thank you.
Everything that you guys have said, I would fully support, but there's one wish that I have, and I really wish that tourism bodies, governments, even local government or whatever, think of tourism differently, that it's not about numbers. It's not about numbers. Please don't measure tourism success by numbers. That's not what it's about. Stop doing it, please.
So, ladies and gentlemen, recap. We need to build, I think, a global conservation economy. We need to give back. And if we take away with us something that's going to improve the place we have visited. The challenges are many, so we have to be flexible. And we can never forget the local people who live there. And it's not about numbers, whether those numbers are big or small. It's about impacts. And it's about what happens at the places we have tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to our winners. Another great round of applause to our finalists in the audience. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your ITV.
Thank you very much.